completely. Why do I say that? Well, if you don't, electing a minor member into a seat will make no difference at all. Okay, and this is coming from someone who, as a mantra, has always said, minor parties sway the balance of power. Okay, we hear that, don't we? Minor parties sway the balance of power. Yes, they do. When the Liberal and Labor Party let them sway the balance of power. Witness what Craig Kelly and Pauline Hanson have been facing in Parliament. When the Labor and Liberal Party want to work together and get something through, which they've done all the way through this seditious government by cabinet, all they do is work together, okay? And then poor old Pauline or Craig or any of the other minor independents or minor parties, they haven't got hope. You've seen them shut down time and again. That's because the Liberal and the Labor Party work against them. Does that make sense, folks? That's exactly what they do. To give them some kind of sense of power, whenever there's an opportunity, they give them the balance of power. Big deal. Okay, it's just Nero fiddling while Rome burns, that's all it is. And Rome's burning while we maintain this ridiculous Liberal Labor, which is exactly what happened in the South Australian election. Exactly what happened. This ridiculous Liberal Labor seesaw. 5 decades, we've had 50 years of Liberal Labor abuse, and look where we are today. It's not even an issue of whether the Liberal Party's worse than the Labor Party or the Labor Party's worse than the Liberal Party. Well, I had a major party member saying to, or a major minor party member saying to me, oh, heaven forbid if the Labor Party gets in. Let me tell you something. I don't want Albanese in. I don't think most people want Albanese in. Some might. You might be a Labor supporter. I don't want him in, okay? But do I want ScoMo back next time too in the Liberal Party? You know what will happen if they get back? They'll just say, we've got a mandate. Everything we did for the last 2 years, you must approve of, because you put us back. You want that? Okay? I don't want either of those. And I pray with all my heart that everybody in this forum here today doesn't want either of those either. So what do we do about it? It's simple. Put the sitting member last. If you've got an LNP or Liberal member in your electorate, put them last. If you've got a Labor Party member in your electorate, put them last. I didn't say, which is what the minor parties are starting to take up. They're starting to catch cry of put the majors last. You know what? That's betraying you. Because all that does is it makes it a choice between the Liberal Party and the Labor Party in people's minds. Which one will they put lower on their thing? That is betrayal. This concept of put the majors last is absolutely betraying the Australian public. I'll say that straight out. Okay? They've changed put the sitting member last to put the majors last. That's betrayal. It'll just turn it back into a Liberal-Labor debate. Now, if we put the sitting member last, okay, what will happen is, if we could get this Australia right, I made you a promise. If you can get this Australia right, I promise you, you will change this nation. Because if you do that, ScoMo's gone. Okay? Our LNP leader, his mind eludes me at the moment. Okay, the LNP leader, he's gone. Albanese's gone. All backbenchers are gone. The Liberal and the Labor Party will lose their entire power base at this election. If you put the sitting member last, remember that. The Liberal and Labor Party, and obviously the Greens, okay, wherever they hold a seat, they will lose their entire power base. Does that make sense, folks? Okay, it should make sense, and I don't know why the minor parties are construing this to put the majors last. That's not what I said. Put the sitting member last, because you will destroy the major parties in one election. In one election, they'll be gone. All the power brokers will be gone. Okay? And that's what we want. That, then and only then and only then, have the minor parties got a choice or a chance to make a difference. Then and only then. Because they won't have the Liberal and Labor Party ganging up on them. Okay? So, put the sitting member last. I had someone contact me the other day and say, well, we've only got Liberal and Labor and one independent in our electorate. Okay. Well, stick the sitting member last. You don't have a choice of a lot of independents in that case. But put the sitting member last. I have other people saying to me, oh, I've got an LNP member in my electorate and he's done great, he's got us a hospital and all the rest of it, you know. Well, my answer to that is great. Has he stood up against treasonous politicians and said, stop this cabinet government, stop these illegal laws? Has he stood up against the LNP or the Liberal Party or the Labor Party? Because they're all just as bad. They're all agreeing with it. Okay? And the answer to that is no, he hasn't stood up against that person. So don't get conned by the fact that they do you a small favour. So, put the sitting member last. Now, who do you vote for? If you're lucky, like in this electorate, we might have 3 or 4, or maybe even 5 at the end. Minor parties. Good. God bless them, because we need them. Okay? But out of that 4 or 5, or however many you've got, who are you going to vote for? Okay? And the truth of it is, most of us don't know much about the minor party members. Okay? We see them up here today, and that's great. They needed to be here today to tell us what they're about. Okay? I don't denigrate that at all. But is that enough to decide who we're going to vote for? I would suggest this. Probably not. What we need to know is, what's their party going to do? What's their party going to do? Where are they? Because a lot of them, I'm not saying anyone here today, but in a lot of cases throughout the state, a lot of the minor parties are independents. They're plants for the major parties. You know how you can tell whether they're plants? It's really, really simple. Or you can even tell where the philosophy of the major party leaders lays. And this is really simple. Look at their how to vote cards. Because they all put out how to vote cards. Now you don't have to vote how their how to vote card says, but they tell you what their philosophy is. And I'm telling you this, in this electorate, if we've got 4 or 5 independents, if those independents are not preferencing every single other independent or major or minor party, okay, I'll call them independents for want of a better word. If they're not preferencing every single other minor independent first, then they wouldn't be my number 1, 2 or 3. They'd be my number 4 or 5. Okay? That's how I'd do that. Now, if they're also maybe putting in a couple of minor parties, but then putting in this electorate, we've got a Liberal national member. Okay? Nothing personal about the bloke. We've got a Liberal national member. So, if these minor parties that are running here, maybe preference a couple of minor parties, but then put the Liberal Party in front of the Labor Party. There goes the put the sitting member last. Okay? And folks, that's the most important message of the whole lot. Put the sitting member last, so they wouldn't be not my number 1 choice. I've put this to these minor parties, and I'm really glad that we have a UAP member here. I'm glad we have a One Nation member. I'm glad we have the Great Australia Party, the whole lot. I'm really glad that they're here, because I pray every night that you people will go back to your leaders and say, please make part of your policy speech what Harry's saying. Can you imagine if the major parties made that part of their policy speech? It would be all over Australia tomorrow. Tomorrow, if they made that part of their policy speech, but not one of them is. Not one of them. To this date, all they're saying is put the majors last. Load of rubbish. Okay? Load of rubbish. Just becomes a Liberal-Labor debate then. That's a fact. Can you all see that? I'm not just giving you my opinion. That's what's happening. Okay? So, now that's in the House of Representatives. With the Senate, equally important. Okay? The Senate's a little more complex, isn't it? Because we've got this vote below the line and vote above the line and all the rest of it. The Senate's a difficulty. Because very often you don't know where the parties or the independents are going to put their preferences in the Senate. Okay, very often that's not given to you. Not out of any particular agenda, but it's just not given to you. Okay, so if you don't know, then why don't you vote below the line? I always do in the Senate. Vote below the line. People go, oh, I can't be bothered filling out 58 different boxes or what. Really? You can't be bothered spending 10 minutes and filling out 58 boxes for the future of your nation. Really? That's my answer to that particular statement. Fair income. You can't be bothered. And it's not difficult. You apply exactly the same principle. Exactly the same principle. You know, if you've got the Liberal Party and the Labor Party, etc., and then you've got a bunch of independents, just decide which independents you like best and preference them. 1, 2, 3, whatever, okay? Because usually, say, One Nation will have a list, UAP will have a list, blah, blah, blah. So if, for argument's sake, you like one nation first, then you go 1, 2, 3, 4 in there. Or you can go backwards. I think backwards is much easier. If there's 52, then you go 52, 53, 54 in the Liberal Party, if you like, okay? Or backwards 52, 51, 50. Okay, maths wasn't my best subject. But I think you get the drift. It's exactly the same concept of put the sitting member last. Okay? So please, you members that are here at the moment of all your minor parties, I'd ask you to ask your party leaders why they won't do that. I know why they won't do that, and I'm not going to talk about it from up here. I know why they won't do that. Okay? Because I've been told. But I'm not going to say. Alright, but why don't you go back in, because every single one of you, I believe, from what I've heard up here today, I believe every single one of you, well, if I believe what I hear, I believe every single one of you wants to make a difference in this country. That's why you, is that right, Christy? You want to make a difference in this nation? I'm not picking on Christy for any reason. She's just sitting there, okay? Every single one of you wants to make a difference in this nation. Well, if you want to make a difference, I just explained to you why you won't make much of a difference. All you'll do is pick up your $90,000 a year as a politician and still have no impact on this nation, or however much you get. And believe me, I believe every politician deserves every dollar they earn. I believe you deserve every single dollar you earn. I'd pay you all $500,000. I would, if you look after my country. If you look after my country. I'd pay you if you stayed in for 2 terms. I'd pay you your car allowance. I'd pay you your office allowance. I don't care. Because if you've looked after this nation, you deserve everything you get. Okay? And I'm praying every one of you wants to get into politics to look after this nation, not just to get into politics. And for that reason, look out for your leaders. A lot of them are not necessarily doing that. Okay? And that's all I'll say with regard to that. Okay? Now, just a couple of quick notes from something the other speakers were saying. Let me make sure I haven't addressed those. Okay. Oh, yeah. With regard to the voting by phone and all that, and rightly, I think Zach addressed that one, voting by phone. Rightly, we all laughed. Not at what Zach was saying, but the concept. Okay? Yeah, look, people have asked me about that. And they said, what are you going to do about that? What have you got to say about that? And I say this, nothing. I can't do anything about that. I can't do anything about that. Okay? So if they do that to us, then I guess we just have to do it whatever the best we can. But let's not forget the main thing. Put the sitting member last as best we can. If they fudge our election details and our election attempts, there isn't a thing I can do about that. Okay? Also, remember what we're doing here. When we vote for the federal election, we're also voting for what's going on in our states. Because understand this, our states are acting unlawfully and unconstitutionally. The Australian Constitution quite clearly states that what they're doing, the states are completely out of line with the Australian Constitution. Okay? They can't hold border closures and lockdowns and all this rubbish. That's a federal government area. Okay? So, why are they doing it? It's real simple. The federal government has allowed them to do it illegally and unconstitutionally. Why? Because it's given the federal government the right to grant this power by cabinet government. Imagine if all the states all of a sudden stopped all their mandates and they're changing their, what do you call that, their times of emergency and all that sort of thing, okay? Imagine if they stopped all that and got rid of it. The federal government would have no reason to have its cabinet government. It would fold. The states have done a deal with the federal government to act unlawfully, okay? The federal government can shut them down tomorrow because the Constitution says the states have to act under their own Constitution. That's what it says in our federal Constitution. I'm paraphrasing. The states are acting exactly, completely outside the confines of their Constitution. Okay? They're doing cabinet government as well. Now that is unconstitutional. The federal government should shut them down, although we don't have a federal government. So do you think these mandates are going to stop? Do you think these states of emergency are going to stop? I'll predict this. Nope. Nope. Because if they do, the state governments will lose their power, and so will the federal government. It'll lose its power too. The federal government wants these states of emergency just as bad as the states do. Okay, so don't live under the illusion that that'll change. Okay, and that's one of the problems we have with some of our conferences, with our rallies. You know, and it's a good thing to issue demands on our federal government, but they don't care, they don't listen. However, I'll go back to what I said before, these rallies are imperative, we have to do them. Okay, and I won't repeat that. So folks, I think I've finished enough. My wife will be giving me the shut up motion in a minute, okay? But that's my fundamental presentation. Put the sitting member last and watch who you make number 1, 2, 3 and 4, okay? Be very careful folks. Alright, I've finished that. What I'm going to do is I'm going